When you stop explaining yourself, everything changes. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you shrank? Even though you said everything you wanted to say, you defended yourself. You explained your side. You laid out all your reasons. But somehow you still felt small. You felt exhausted. You felt strangely defeated. Maybe you were surrounded by people who talk over you, interrupt you, and laugh at you. They fill the room with a fake confidence that is really just insecurity in disguise. And maybe, deep down, you started to believe that staying quiet makes you weak. You started to believe that not clapping back means you let them win. You started to believe that if you don't argue, you are a coward. We are taught that not reacting means losing. But what if that idea is completely wrong? What if real power is not in what you manage to say, but in what you are strong enough not to say? What if the moment you stop trying so hard to explain yourself to everyone is the moment your life quietly begins to change? In this video, I want to go deep into that. This is for you if you feel like you are always the one holding back. You are the one trying to be mature. You are the one who keeps the peace while others push your limits. It is for you if you are tired of being the understanding one, the calm one, the one who swallows their anger, their truth, and their needs. And it is especially for you if you have started to suspect that your silence is not strength. It is self-erasure. We are going to flip that. We will talk about another kind of silence. A silence that does not come from fear, but from power. A silence that does not mean, I give up. It means you do not own access to my energy anymore. Let's start at the root. Why do you feel that pressure in your chest to jump in and defend yourself? Why do you feel the urge to correct people and set the record straight? Why is it so hard to stay still and say nothing? We grow up in a world that teaches us that the truth must be defended out loud or it is not real. If someone misunderstands you and you do not fix it, you are told you let a lie win. If someone disrespects you and you do not fire back, you are told you are weak. So every disagreement and every criticism starts to feel like a test of who you are. Your ego hears an attack and says, if I do not fight this, I will disappear. That is where the trap begins. The moment you feel that your worth depends on what you can prove, you have already given your power to the other person. You have told them, my truth only stands if you accept it. That is not strength. That is dependence dressed up as righteousness. The loudest people in the room are not always the strongest. Very often, they are the most frightened. They are frightened of being ignored. They are frightened of being wrong. They are frightened of being seen exactly as they are. So they raise their voice. They talk over others. They turn every conversation into a courtroom. They do this not to find truth, but to avoid facing themselves. When you get pulled into that game, you are not having a real conversation. You are being dragged into someone else's insecurity. No matter how well you argue, you leave feeling empty. Because deep down, you were not speaking from your center. You were begging to be approved. Think about the last argument you believe you won. Maybe you had the better logic. Maybe you had the sharper comeback. Maybe the other person even admitted you were right. Did that victory actually change them? Or did it mostly drain you? Most people do not argue to learn. They argue to feel powerful. They do not want their beliefs challenged. They want their beliefs reinforced. So when you step into a fight with someone like that, you are not debating. You are dancing around their fear. You can throw facts, logic, and wisdom at them. But if their identity is tied to being right, they will not hear you. They will just push harder. So what really happened when you won that fight? You spent your emotional energy, your time, and your peace trying to move someone who never intended to move. That is not winning. That is overspending. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Anytime you feel desperate to be understood, you are already negotiating your self-worth. Anytime you feel, I need them to see my point or I will not be okay, you have handed them your center. Real power does not say, you must agree with me. Real power says, you are allowed to be wrong about me, and I will still be fine. This is where silence starts to become a weapon. Not all silence is the same. There is a silence that destroys you, and there is a silence that builds you. Most people only know the first one. It is the silence of fear. You are quiet because you are afraid of conflict. You are afraid of rejection. You are afraid to upset anyone. You bite your tongue, not because you are in control, but because you feel you have no right to speak. You let others talk over you, decide for you, and define you. You call it keeping the peace. But it is not peace. It is self-abandonment with a nice label. This kind of silence eats you from the inside and makes you smaller every day. That is not the silence we are aiming for. There is another kind of silence. It is full. It is heavy. It is grounded. It does not come from fear. It comes from a deep sense of, I know who I am, and I do not need you to confirm it. This silence does not run away from conflict. It simply refuses to perform for it. It does not say, I am scared of you. It says, I will not let you decide how I spend my energy. On the outside, both types of silence look similar. You are not talking. But on the inside, one is submission and the other is mastery. The work of your life is to move from one to the other. Why does this strong silence bother people so much? Why do some people get angrier when you do not respond? Most people are used to controlling the room through reactions. They raise their voice. They use guilt and sarcasm and emotional pressure. Usually, someone reacts. Someone defends themselves. Someone cries, explains, or apologizes. That reaction is their fuel. It proves to them that they still have power. It shows them that their words can move people like pieces on a board. Now imagine they throw all of that at you, and you do not bite. You do not argue. You do not justify. You do not beg them to see your side. You stay calm. You stay present. You stay quiet. Suddenly, their whole strategy collapses. Without your reaction, they lose control of the story. Their brain starts filling the silence with fear. Are they judging me? Did I go too far? Why aren't they fighting back? Do they see through me? In that moment, your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects their own insecurity, their own cruelty, and their own contradictions. That is terrifying for them. This is why some people escalate when you stay calm. They raise their voice even more. They double down. They try harder to provoke you. Your refusal to react forces them to face something they have been running from. The problem is not you. It is them. And deep down, they feel it. So how do you use this without turning into a cold statue? How do you turn silence from a reflex of fear into a conscious choice? It starts with one hard rule. You do not owe anyone an immediate reaction. Not in arguments. Not in messages. Not in real life. When someone attacks you, misunderstands you, or tries to pull you into chaos, your first move is not to respond. Your first move is to breathe. You let your body calm down. You let your heart slow down. You give your nervous system time to step out of survival mode. Then, from that calmer place, you ask yourself a question. Do I need to say anything here? Or am I just trying not to feel misunderstood? If the only reason you want to speak is to repair your image in their eyes, silence is often the better move. Their opinion was never a stable foundation in the first place. Second, you observe. While they are talking, you are not waiting for your turn to attack. You are listening like a surgeon. You notice where they are insecure. You notice where they contradict themselves. You notice what they are trying so hard to prove. You gather information and you hold it instead of throwing it back right away. Third, you use time. You let silence hang a little longer than feels comfortable. After they finish a rant, you do not answer right away. You pause. That pause is not emptiness. It is pressure. Their mind rushes to fill it with doubts and second-guessing. Sometimes that silence alone is enough to make them soften or to reveal what they really feel. Finally, when you do decide to speak, you keep it short. You say one clear boundary or one honest sentence. I am not interested in arguing about this. I see it differently, and that is okay. I am not going to continue this conversation right now.
No esa.
No big defense.
No begging.
You speak once, and then you return to silence. Not as an escape, but as a firm line. There is a danger here. You can hear all of this and use it as another excuse to avoid your life. You might say, I will just stay quiet forever. I will not confront anyone. I will not express anything. That means I am powerful. No, that is fear wearing a spiritual mask. Strong silence does not mean you never speak up. It means that when you do speak, it comes from choice, not from panic. Sometimes real strength is saying, this is not okay. Sometimes it is walking away. Sometimes it is leaving a relationship, a job, or a friend group. If your silence is never respected and you never change anything, that is not power. That is conditioning. You were trained to make yourself smaller so others could stay comfortable. At some point, you must break that. Your silence has to stop being surrender and start being a boundary. Look at your life for a moment. How many times have you stayed quiet, not because you were wise, but because you were scared? Scared of losing someone. Scared of being judged. Scared of being called difficult, selfish, or dramatic. How many times did you say, it is not worth it. I do not want drama. I will just let it go. And then lie awake at night replaying everything, wishing you had spoken? That is the cost of the wrong kind of silence. Piece by piece, you teach yourself that your feelings do not matter. You teach yourself that your needs are negotiable. You teach yourself that your comfort comes last. After years of that, you look in the mirror and you do not recognize yourself. That is where this shift begins. Today can be the day you start using silence differently. Not as a way to disappear, but as a way to appear fully without explaining. When you choose this path, your silence starts to say, I am here. I know what I feel. I refuse to perform for your approval. You might lose some people. People who only knew the version of you that apologized for existing. Let them go. They were never holding you. They were holding their access to you. From now on, your silence can become a declaration. It is not the silence of defeat. It is the silence of someone who finally understands their own worth. You no longer rush to answer every accusation. You no longer crumble when someone misunderstands you. You no longer waste hours trying to fix what lives inside another person's mind. You let them be wrong about you and you keep walking. That is not coldness. That is emotional freedom. The weak shout because they are terrified of not being heard. The strong can be silent because they know their value does not depend on anyone else's volume. The wise choose. Sometimes they speak. Sometimes they stay silent. But either way, they are not reacting. They are deciding. Look at your life again. Where do you still explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you? Where do you argue with people who only want to win, not grow? Where do you hand your peace to anyone who knows how to press your buttons? That is where your new silence belongs. Not as a wall against love, but as a shield against disrespect. Not as a prison, but as a throne. If you feel this, you are already changing. You do not have to announce it. You do not have to prove it. Just let your reactions slow down. Let your explanations become fewer. Watch how your world quietly rearranges itself around the new version of you. The version that no longer begs to be heard. The version that has finally learned to hear themselves.